Hello and welcome everyone to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Ferguson, writer for UCLA on SI. Today we're going to be breaking down UCLA's next five matchups, what they need to do to win, as well as some players that might stand in their way. But before we get started, I really want to thank everyone who's listening right now. It means a lot to me, and I can't thank you enough, honestly. But to get started, UCLA is coming off a win against Northwestern and a win against number 4 Purdue. So momentum is riding on their hip. So a lot of these games could honestly be a result of that momentum from this 2-game span. But their next game is going to come against Oregon, a team who UCLA played earlier in the season and actually handled pretty well. The biggest difference in this game is that Oregon is not looking to have Nate Biddle, who is their leading scorer with 16.4 points per game. They're going to play on January 28th, and UCLA should be able to win this game, all things considered. Again, they're a weaker team now, but still they have to worry about Jackson Shellstad, who scored 20 points against UCLA in their last meeting. And now that he's going to have more volume with Biddle being out, we could see him have a good game, but still I think UCLA should be able to win this game. We're going to need another strong defensive performance, of course. And I think now that UCLA has found their rhythm defensively, the Bruins should be able to walk away with the win in this one. So I'm going to predict that UCLA will win 75-63. It's going to be a very balanced game, I think, for the Bruins. They're going to be able to find momentum both in the first half and kind of carry it on to the second half and do a little bit better than they did against Northwestern, because again, the first half against Northwestern was great, but they were unable to carry that momentum to make that kind of a blowout win for UCLA. But I think that problem gets fixed, especially against Oregon, because like I said, they're missing their best player. This should not be a hard game for UCLA whatsoever. Next up on their schedule is going to be Indiana on January 31st. Now, this game could go either way. It's a coin flip game. Indiana has struggled in their last 5 games. They're 1-4, but they're looking for wins where they can. And UCLA is not that ranked top 10 team that they have lost to, because they have in those losses. I mean, they're not just scrubs. I think they had Michigan State in there, Nebraska. Teams like that who are going to win games. That just happened to all come together for Indiana, and UCLA will have a similar stretch. But I really do think UCLA should be able to pull out a win here, but it's going to be a hard-fought win, no doubt about it. I think if UCLA can continue with their defensive production, and we see performances from Donovan Dent, Tyler Bilodeau, we might even get Sky Clark back in this game. The scoring is going to be there, and for that reason, I think UCLA will be able to overpower Indiana. So I'm going to go 81-75 UCLA. It's going to be a very close game. I mean, UCLA it's going to be neck and neck until probably 2 minutes in the second half, where UCLA kind of gets a run going, kind of like they did against Purdue. They still have to be careful for Lamar Wilkerson. He's a 19.4 point scorer this season for Indiana. And honestly, if Donovan Dent is able to kind of showcase his defense that he has shown in these last couple games, UCLA could be fine. But like I said, it's going to be a very close game. This game honestly could go either way. There's no doubt about it. But still, UCLA wins 81-75 here. Moving on, Rutgers. This game should go UCLA's way. Indiana just beat them. Rutgers is not that good of a team. I believe they're 9-11 right now. I could be wrong, but still, UCLA has a really good chance. Like Northwestern, Rutgers is kind of in that bottom half, or like that bottom quarter of the Big Ten. So I mean, it's still a Big Ten game. That's the bottom line in this one. But still, UCLA should be able to win this one. No questions asked. But still, I think the thing that really makes me nervous for this one is how UCLA has proven to be this season. They tend to play to the level of their competition more times than not. Cal Poly, Northwestern just recently. UCLA should have absolutely dominated those games, and they didn't. So yeah, looking at this game, I think it will be a little bit close, but I think UCLA is going to be able to pull ahead later in the second half, because like I said, second half production is going to need to be a focal point moving forward for UCLA. So I'm going to predict that they go 78-59 against Rutgers here. I think some of these issues will be a little bit easier. Again, February 23rd, this is starting to get towards the end of the season where wins are going to matter. UCLA needs to be in win now mode, or their season could be over. And a convincing win against Rutgers here means a lot. Again, it's going to be at Rutgers. I mean, it's going to be in Poly. So UCLA has a lot of things going for them overall. But like I said, if UCLA can avoid playing down to their competition, this should be a good win. They have to worry about Tariq Francis, who has been great this season, but still, UCLA's defense has proven to kind of start to, minimize star players. We saw that with Braden Smith, Oscar Clough against Purdue, and then now against Nick Martinelli against Northwestern. So we need to have a similar defensive outing to kind of put this game away for UCLA to kind of accomplish a blowout. While they're not known for blowing out teams this season, it needs to change against Rutgers, and it's a perfect opportunity for that to happen. For their 24th game of the season, it's going to be home against Washington on February 7th. Sorry for the Rutgers game. I meant February 3rd. That's my bad. But still, UCLA was able to beat Washington earlier this season, 82-80. That game was to the wire. And it really looked like UCLA could have lost that game if maybe a foul or something. It was that close of a game, right? And if I'm Washington looking into this game, they know how important a win here against UCLA is. So I'm going to expect Washington to play with more grit, more effort overall, and UCLA still needs to worry about Hans Steinbach. Hans Steinbach has been excellent this season. I believe he's averaging 11 rebounds, 18 points, somewhere around that range. But he has been absolutely great this season, and UCLA really doesn't have anyone rostered right now who can handle him. We have Xavier Booker. I mean, he has looked nice, but still, Hannes Steinbach is one of the best players in all of college basketball. And Xavier Booker needs to show improvement in the first 3 games leading up to this one, or it's going to be an absolute, massacre, to put it bluntly, right? So I really think UCLA is not going to be able to pull out a win here. I know it's shocking. This is a UCLA podcast. Even with some of that bias coming into this and predicting this slate, I really do think UCLA struggles to kind of get things going. The talent gap between UCLA's roster and Hannes Steinbach is just going to be too big. Again, in their first meeting, he scored 29 points, and I can expect a similar game from him. If UCLA is able to kind of manage that, I feel like UCLA has a chance here. But Washington has some pretty good wins leading up to this game. I think they beat Ohio State by 7, a team who pretty much just dismantled UCLA from top to bottom when they played just recently. So like I said, this game is going to be very difficult for the Bruins. I don't think they have anyone to kind of counter Steinbach. Again, I keep saying that, but that is going to be the focal point of this game when you kind of look at the breakdown, what UCLA does good, what UCLA does bad, and what they do bad is go up against star centers like Steinbach. But overall, I think UCLA is kind of due for a loss here. Entering this game, if my predictions are right, they should be entering with a 5-game win streak. And Washington is a tough team. So, like I said, it's not a slight to UCLA. I think they still are a good team. But Washington, I feel like, has taken the next step, and they know what they need to do to beat UCLA. And if their first matchup wasn't as close, this game goes to UCLA. But still, if it is that close and, Washington has shown good improvements, I think they take this game here. Next up is number 3, Michigan. This is pretty much UCLA's Super Bowl, if you will. I know football season is kind of coming up to a wrap here, but still, Michigan is that number 3 team. I know UCLA just took care of business against number 4 Purdue, but that doesn't change the fact that Michigan is a absolute powerhouse now, ranked number 3 entering this game, or right now as it stands. And they don't look to be really slowing down. I know they just lost a game to, I think it was Illinois. I'm not too sure. But still, Michigan on paper is still going to take over this game. UCLA got lucky again. I wouldn't say got lucky, but still. Purdue has kind of looked shaky. Purdue lost to Illinois just recently. So taking that account, UCLA is going up against another, entirely different beast in number 3, Michigan. Michigan has looked great this season, and I don't expect them to slow down against, UCLA. And this game is going to be in Michigan. So like I said, the odds, all the other, invisible factors entering this game are against UCLA. What UCLA does need to do to get a win here is, kind of limit Yaxel Lendenborg. I butchered his name. I'm sorry about that. But still, that's kind of the key to this game. He's averaging about 14 points, 7 rebounds. If Eric Daly Jr. will probably get the call, him or Bilodeau. The thing with that matchup is that whoever's on him needs to match his performance, and that's the bottom line. And that's what we want. That's what was the key to the win against Purdue. Trey Kaufman-Renn was the Boilermakers' leading rebounder in entering that game. And Eric Daly was able to match his production on the glass, and that's kind of what helped UCLA kind of keep this game close. So if Daly is able to do that, the Bruins should be able to keep this one, within reach, entering the second half, later in the second half, whenever it is. But that production needs to be matched by someone on the floor for UCLA. But with all those things considered, I do think UCLA does lose this game. 86-75 is what I'm going with. I think UCLA keeps it kind of competitive. But again, we saw kind of in the Purdue game where the Boilermakers looked like they were pulling away in the second half. So that's something that will happen probably in this game. That's just the brand of basketball UCLA has kind of given us this season. But I don't think the only difference between Purdue and this game and kind of that second half is that I feel like Michigan won't allow UCLA to go on a run like Purdue did in that late second half. And for that reason, I feel like, an 11-point margin here for UCLA is pretty realistic when you kind of think about that. Again, UCLA might be able to keep this one close, but the odds are not looking good in their favor. But overall, this will be the biggest test of UCLA season. I know everyone said that about Purdue and UCLA was able to win, but if Purdue doesn't start looking better to wrap off this season, that win is starting to mean less and less, right? So what the Bruins really need to kind of figure out and do here is how they plan on stopping Michigan. And there are a lot of things that have to go right for them in a blowout, and I just don't think those things will line up good for them. But that kind of wraps up kind of their next 5 games on their schedule. UCLA will finish this stretch 3-2, which is not bad. That's kind of what you expect from the team. But moving forward after this, I think UCLA's schedule definitely tightens up. So that episode will be a lot more critical of UCLA, especially depending on how, UCLA is able to manage these next couple of games. But still, not a bad run for UCLA, 3-2. They're going up against some really good teams here. Indiana, Washington, Michigan, those are all 3 teams who could really hurt UCLA. And these wins can be spread out anywhere. You never know. UCLA could win against Washington, but lose to Indiana. A Michigan win here, I feel like that's like a very small chance. But I think if UCLA can I think the bottom line with what I'm getting at here is if UCLA is able to win, the 4 games leading up to that, they have a good chance to take down Michigan, especially if, Michigan has some problems with their team before they face UCLA. Sky Clark coming back is also going to be a huge factor for UCLA. Their guards are starting to get burned out. Donovan Dent and Trent Perry playing 30-plus minutes. So if they're able to get more rest and be more fresh in these games, that will be huge for UCLA. So taking that all into account, I hope you guys kind of think I was fair. If you guys have any, dissenting opinions about this stretch on how UCLA could play, I'd love to hear them and what you guys have to say. So overall, I think what UCLA is going to end up here, again, 3-2. Those wins can be spread around anywhere. But for now, I think UCLA has what it takes to kind of go 4-1, maybe even sweep this 5-game stretch. But still, we need to see more from them, right? This is subject to change depending on how they play in these games, right? If it is a dominant win against Oregon, dominant win against Indiana, dominant win against Rutgers, those next 2 games look a lot better for UCLA. But until we see that, we cannot, guarantee a win here. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, I want to hear what you guys think. And yeah, have a good one.